Hi, this is Kris Castro, and this is the Lead Upside Down podcast, where leaders are sharing how they are leading in non-traditional ways based on Jesus's leadership style. If you have any questions, go back to the trailer episode and that should answer them. But right now, grab your favorite beverage and settle in. If you have any questions or comments, especially if something resonates with you, feel free to go to my website, begin2shift.com, and set up a coffee and conversation meeting, and we can chat about it in more detail. All right, enjoy. Well, hello, everybody. It's the Lead Upside Down podcast. I am Kris Castro with Shift Inc. I have my guest today, Nichole Henderson. Nichole is a mom, a daughter of the king, a friend, a mental health and wellness psychotherapist, and she lives a victorious life. And that is exactly what we're going to be talking about today, leading upside down, which gives you victory. And so, Nichole, I'm so excited that you're here. We've known each other for several years. We're in a women's group together, and it has been so much fun watching you just make decisions, make hard choices, and walk with Jesus as you lead upside down in both your personal and professional life. So thanks for being a guest today.
I am so honored to be here. Thanks for asking me. Thank you so much.
So everybody knows I always ask two initial questions, and then we take a break and we go into a longer discussion. The first question is, as you have been leading upside down, what does that look like in your life and work? And how does it show up?
Leading upside down is not easy, professionally or personally. When you lead upside down, you kind of do things unconventionally or unorthodox. And as a mom, just in parenting, Christian therapist, people come to me for direction. So that in itself is leadership. And I always get the question, Kris, oh, how do you do it? And I always have one answer. I don't know, but Jesus leads. I tell people all the time, God is my business partner and the Holy Spirit is my counselor. So leading upside down is something that I pretty much do every day. I do that because I have no choice. You know, I struggle with 2 autoimmune diseases. I lost my parents before I became a teenager. And I started a private practice with no money, $0. And God has protected me for well over 3-4 decades. And I'm so grateful because when storms come, if I depend on what Nichole thinks she should do and what the world tells her to do, it never works. So I have to kind of go upside down, Kris, literally, and check in with God. And that's basically how I lead my life.
Good stuff. And so the second question before we take a break is for those that are listening, if they want to lead upside down or they want to get better at it, what would you suggest?
I would suggest a few things. The first thing, of course, is prayer. Everybody has a different prayer narrative, prayer language, but ask God for direction. You know, in Proverbs, I think it's 3:5, it says, lead not toward your own understanding and trust in his ways. And that's pretty much what I do. Kris, people come to me every day, clients every day. What do I do? How do I do it? Why do I do it? And I'm so happy that it doesn't come from me, because if I didn't have that source, if I didn't have mentorship, if I didn't have women's group like the women's group that we're in, and it's Christian and faith-based, I really am not sure how I would get by. So when you have storms in your life, go to God's word. when you have pain, disabilities, things of that nature, you have to have a sense of community. And as a therapist, yes, people come to us for depression, hardship, suicide, a lot of hard stuff. But it says commit your plans to the Lord in whatever you do. And that's what I do. And how I do it, how I gain, clarity, it's a daily question that I check in with God. God, what's your will today? And with every client, we pray. I have some atheist clients, we don't pray, but I'm praying while I'm speaking with them. Now, whether they believe it works or not, it's really not up to me. But at the end of the day, in order to lead well, you have to be able to listen. And once you listen, you have to execute. And last but not least, discipline determines your destiny. If you don't have faith and community and mentorship, and you keep repeating it over and over and over and over again, you're going to get lost in the storm.
Oh, yes. And as a therapist, I know you know that well, because so many clients that you have and so many people in general go around that mountain multiple times before they figure out how to get off it.
Years. Mhm.
So, Nichole, let's go back and talk a little bit about your acknowledgement that you've got an autoimmune disease, you've got work. I know from being in the women's group with you that you have a dream that you're working on outside of all of that,
Okay.
and that you've had some pretty significant challenges throughout your life. As you reflect back, pull out a couple of stories that showcase how you led upside down in some circumstances.
Okay. As far as leading upside down and the circumstance of parenting, I'm not supposed to be 13 years old and be a parent. I'm not supposed to be 13 years old and knowing how to lead. And a lot of different situations and circumstances have happened in my life as a result of stress. Then before, I didn't know, nor did I understand what was going on in my life. And as I became a teenager and an adult, the stress compounded and turned into an autoimmune disease. And when you have an autoimmune disease, it attacks your system. It attacks anything that's healthy. And that's chaos. I had no idea what was going on with me. I had no idea what was happening to me. And if you know anything about arthritis, when the weather changes, a storm is coming. And the metaphors of storm is used frequently in faith narrative when the storms come and we live up to the storms. So I prayed, I watched, I called out for God several times. And I thought God had abandoned me, Kris, especially when my parents kind of like disappeared. I lost my mom to death, my dad later in life, we reconnected, but I had to learn how to lead well. And I say that slowly because I could have went the other direction. But that was too painful. In addition to the pain, the struggle, and things of that nature. During that struggle, Kris, I had some really good exposure to how marginalized people lived. And God told me through a dream that He wanted me to help women and children who were currently being sex trafficked. Kris, all I could say was, what? Excuse me? I had no idea what that was about. So fast forwarding to today, when COVID happened, I had lived in Nevada, Las Vegas for 28 years. I have worked with some industries in sex trafficking and things of that nature. And I asked to go to be a volunteer, Kris, not a leader. If you're talking about leading upside down, they would not take my application for a volunteer. Instead, they brought me on for their direct care manager. And in that, Kris, I never been to a strip club in my life. I went to a brothel for my internship because we had to do sex therapy, so to speak. As a direct care manager, I went to every brothel every month. I went to strip clubs toward the back to help women, to guide them to care and lead them to the right path. They were so happy to see us when we came because we led with cupcakes. And we made miniature cupcakes every month, and we came through the door and they would come just for a cupcake, gluten-free cupcakes. It was pretty amazing to watch. It was pretty amazing to see. And that transformation added a lot of seasoning to me, a lot of experience for me, a lot of light that opened up so many different venues for me. So when COVID hit, Kris, I came to Texas. I got a place sight unseen, Kris. No one does that. Leading upside down, and the place almost mirrors this waterfall behind me. It is absolutely beautiful. So God took me from being an orphan, giving me a dream, struggling with rheumatoid arthritis, have Graves' disease, I had a surgery, I have my thyroid removed, a lot of things. And being a woman just in general from a hormonal standpoint is a storm and a battle and leading upside down, period. So all that being said, Kris, it is a joy to represent God as his daughter, to serve people that I know nothing about because they teach me about life in the world. And the funny thing about that, Kris, during my Bible studies, during me just personally reading my word and asking God for direction, he always does that. And it's never me saying, God, I want to know A, B, and C. It doesn't work that way. You have to have the experience. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I'm humbled. And I just absolutely love seeing people heal through the transformation. And as soon as it looks like it's going to be right side up, it goes back upside down again.
When you were talking about going into the brothels and the strip clubs, in Christian circles, that would be a gasp moment, like, oh, how could you do that? And I've been around the block long enough to know that God calls people to different places, which requires that you learn how to be in an environment without having the environment affect you. And so I want you to just talk a little bit about how you reconciled the faith foundations that you've had most of your life in that environment, how you knew that it was okay for you to do what you needed to do to get what you needed to get for your education. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So for pure academia, you follow a syllabus. I am a overachiever. So I had a regular internship as a drug and alcohol counselor, going into drug and alcohol. And I had a second internship at a church. And because I had that internship as a church, becoming a Christian counselor, becoming a pastor, I asked for wisdom. I asked for help because I didn't know. The answer to the question is how I did it. didn't know how I was going to do it. There's no written plan to do that, Kris. There's no right way to feel if you have to go to the problem. The way I lead, Kris, is I always start at the end. I don't start at the beginning. So without being too graphic, it is very dark and it is very humbling to humble yourself down to go into an environment that's unfamiliar, nor do you understand. So I did different experiments. I'm from Las Vegas. In Las Vegas, they have streets or areas or communities. Like there is a community or like an area, wherever you go, you know, there's a Martin Luther King and you know what that environment brings, okay? So in Las Vegas, they have a city, not really technically, but it's called Naked City. It's where all the drugs are, it's where everything is. So 2 by 2, I asked a lady who actually helps people recover. And I asked her, would she take me? Would she show me? She told me no. I said, why? She says, you can't go in an environment looking like you're too professional. And you don't know what you're doing. I said, that's why I'm asking for help. So Kris, I don't accept no very well. To me, in the leadership, saying no is turning her upside down, saying on. It's on. And Kris, majority of faith leaders that I know also lead their lives upside down because they've come from drugs and alcohol and abuse and things of that nature. So in talking to them, asking them to mentor me up, at the same time protecting me, that's what we did. We prayed before, during, and after, and we went in. And Kris, I have to tell you that I thought I would be shook. I thought, like anybody else who hasn't been adapted to a particular environment, that ew, like, oh, I can't do that. Are you kidding me? So God and I had this friendly, unfriendly banter. Like, why do you keep showing me this? And Kris, year after year, I would get more clarity on why I was supposed to do it, how I was supposed to do it. I'm an equestrian therapist, Kris. I'm a gala trained. And God showed me through equestrian therapy how to reach the broken and the brokenhearted. God showed me how to trust him through a horse and through equestrian therapy. I learned all of the bouncers' names. And in sales, they say when you get what you want, you bring gifts. I really didn't have to because everybody wanted cupcakes. So going in, having a strategy, having a plan, because you know, you don't have a plan, you fail. That's biblical, it's in Proverbs. So planning, and of course, learning from the organization that I was working for, they already had a structure in place, but bringing my skills and talents that God loans me every single day allowed me to talk to anyone. To this very day, I still talk to some of those people who are deemed and called sex workers. How are they different from us? Does Jesus put on a pair of glasses when he sees that they have a different occupation? We don't know their heart. So if you go in leading with Jesus and asking for his support and his guidance, and of course the human support, the human guidance, especially those have gone before you and those who encourage you. That's how I get filled up. That's how I continue to fill my love tank. Because if not for that, Kris, we know what spirits do. We know what type of spirits are in strip clubs. We know what types of spirits are in brothels. But God has not given me the spirit of fear. He's given me love, power, and a sound mind. And I execute that. Everything aforementioned that I have mentioned, that's how I can actually stand strong, go in the same way, and come out the same with a little bit more of a broken heart. Because it's too big of a job for one person. And my mind is not God's mind. So there's no comparison. So I can't have a mirror in front of me and says, oh, look at me, I'm going to go save the day. No, it's one moment at a time, one person at a time, one opportunity at a time.
Yeah, and I just want to draw out of what you said some, I think, key aspects of leading upside down. You asked for help from people who had more experience than you. That is absolutely leadership in general. But asking Jesus who to ask, that's leading upside down.
Yes, ma'am.
Being able to say yes to go into an environment that was completely outside the parameters of what would have been acceptable because Jesus said so. And I'm assuming you had a confirmation process in nature, or like that whole discernment thing. That's leading upside down. And you took the advice of the people. I'm assuming you changed your clothes, you came with a different appearance so that you would be acceptable to them or to be able to receive you better. That is leadership. And the leading upside down piece is that you prayed, got protected, and walked in with a mindset of Christ.
Absolutely.
So all of that gave you the potential success that you obviously had from the story that you told.
And Kris, it's different every single day. Our lived experiences gives us credit, but God protects our reputation, and we have to lead with his reputation, not our own. And there's so many leadership qualities that I can give you. Those are just a few. I just cannot believe at this point in my life, he's given me so much richness and preparation for what's coming. I'm looking to build a ranch for marginalized women and children affected by sex trafficking. It's in the birthing stages. Leadership is waiting. Leadership is moving and executing exactly what God tells you to do. And if you don't hear it, and you can't hear God's whisper, you have to be still. And you can't ask him how long, because it's on his time.
And when he tells you to do something, even if it doesn't make sense, as long as you have it confirmed, you go ahead. Because you saw years ago, you didn't understand why you were doing what you were doing. But today, it all makes sense based on the revelatory maturity and experience you've gotten over the last 10 or 15 years.
And I'm so grateful. And I'm so grateful because that's where that community piece comes in. People ask me all the time, how do you know so many people? Well, when I'm traveling, I'm not traveling for fun. I'm traveling for connection, and I'm being obedient. And it's just been a good time, Kris. That leadership and knowing, and it's almost like leading effortlessly once you understand it. So pushing through the pain and understanding what your job is, what you've been assigned to do. My gift is discernment. Boy, does that help me every day. And when you lead with discernment and you lead with the understanding that you're not in control, that God's in charge, it gets a little bit easier for a second. And then you have to pray and you have to give it back and you have to pray and you have to give it back and you have to keep doing more. Because if you don't work, it's not going to work. Nothing will work. And that's not leading.
Do you have another story that might fit in terms of leading upside down that you think would help the audience?
I was leading a team at the organization that I mentioned. And all of the people had more experience than me. They were older than me. And instead of them loving me and receiving me and preparing me for the job that I was doing, they gave me some tough love. And I didn't understand that tough love. So instead of giving me the step-by-step process, they didn't share anything with me. So I went to my trusted sources, my trusted books, and I went to my mentors and asked for help. When I tell you that things become disastrous when you think that you can lead on your own, you can't. And it's as simple as asking for help, not the person who's in charge or connected to the problem, the issue, or the solution, but to step away from come out of yourself and see what's going to add to the mission, the outcome, with or without you. So I did nothing. I waited and I prayed. Every question they asked, I said yes or no. I didn't offer anything. I didn't suggest anything. And a lot of things came clear for me in the sense of leadership. I had great pain to the point where I shouldn't have been going to work physically, getting in the car, driving, things of that nature. And they always used to ask me, why are you so quiet? And I would never tell them about the pain until it got to be too much. And once I opened up about that, they had a little bit more grace for me. And I was being real stubborn, Kris. I didn't want to look like I was weak. Leaders don't appear to be weak, but it's the weakness that makes the leader strong. So in that, and listening to what they were suggesting and actually doing it, trying to discern if it's from God or if it's from man, I think made me a better leader when the volunteers would come to me and ask me the same questions that I asked the individuals that was either leading me or helping me or was supposed to be a support to me. And I take that lesson in everything that I do. If I'm on the grounds and I'm doing equestrian therapy, and someone will come and says, who's in charge here? I'll point to the horse. And they don't understand it. But when we go finish with the introductions and who we are and things of that nature, I do it on purpose. I do that upside down, Kris, because you're not your title. You are not your job. You are not what you do. Your identity comes from Christ. So operating in my identity is leading upside down because it's not traditional. It has no power unless it's coming from Christ. Other than that, men, women who have power positions, and I've been there. That was my second career. I'm in my third career. Been there. And they lead with force. They lead with aggression. And that assertiveness is not always kind. It's not always reassuring. And it's not helpful. So God had to take me to being an orphan, struggling with pain, studying, taking an exam for my licensure and not passing the first, second, or third time, but I'm still leading. I'm in leadership positions. I'm CEO of my own business. I'm CEO of my own behavioral health company, and I'm working with the organization with sex trafficking. And I'm an intern. How does that happen, Kris? That's upside down leadership. And once I surrendered it 100%, I tried to keep like 1%, like 99, whatever. But I gave it back to God, and I listened to my Pinnacle Forum sisters, and I got like 8, 9 mothers. They insist on me calling them mom, so I'm not an orphan in my adult life. And it turned, it shifted, it did a 360. And all I had to do was be still and know that God was God. Psalms 46:10. That's what I had to do. And that right there was a pivotal moment in my life, and I'm still accepting it. It kind of still doesn't feel real. It feels like an out-of-body experience. It feels like it's not happening, but it is.
Earlier, you mentioned that you started a business with no money. And I
Yes.
know that you and I have had multiple conversations over the last couple of years about God and taking steps of faith and not looking at the checkbook. Can
Yes.
you tell us? I know you have so many, but just pick one story of you knowing you needed to walk in a direction, but there was absolutely no money to get there, but you took the step anyway, and tell the miracle of what happened because you were faithful to God, He was faithful to you.
I asked my supervisor, would you be my supervisor? She says, yes. I said, you're in private practice. Tell me what I need to do to start a private practice. She said, it's not easy. A business license in Nevada costs almost $400. Okay, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I have no shame in saying that. I had to have a business license, I had to have an office, and I had to have a whole lot of other things. I read books. I wrote a business plan. I talked to 50 therapists. In 30 days, Kris, literally, in 30 days, God turned it around because I asked for help. My personality is I'm an independent kind of introvert when it comes to asking for things. It's kind of how I am. And I put the plan together and I gave it back to God. I literally put it on the altar, Kris. I says, God, I want my business to be called Victorious Beginnings because that's what Nichole means. And I want it to represent you because I'm not victorious if I don't have you. And hey, God, by the way, I need some money to get this thing off the ground. I built my own website. I'm not a software person. But again, that stubbornness in me of what the enemy tries to give me the irrational thoughts like what he gives my clients. You can't do that. You're a minority. You can't do that. And not getting into the minority piece, I don't mean anything negative. I am a minority. And to bring God into this thing, that's against all the rules. Kris, I was really, really careful, skating on thin ice, being unapologetic about bringing God into this. And I ran this thing by my supervisor more than once, and she says, it's okay. As long as she said it was okay, unbeknownst to me, I didn't know at the time she was president of the American Marriage and Family Therapy in Nevada. I didn't know she had that type of power, but God did. And she was nothing but kind, nothing but patient, and nothing but faithful to me. Overnight, I'm not making $1 gazillion. I'm not living paycheck to paycheck, but one or two circumstances can put me right back there. So I've learned to ask for help even better with my finances. I have learned not to live in the spirit of poverty or poverty mindset. Again, reading books, asking for help, going to the Bible, seeing what the word says about being a good steward with my money and my tithing. And I did it, and God turned that light on, and it hasn't stopped. It hasn't stopped. God is doing some amazing things with me with leadership, but I never mention the word leadership. I just tell people, hey, oh, I'm Nichole. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? You know, until people start asking, and God's love is contagious. The short answer to the question, God's strength, his love, and his power. The long answer is answering your question of what you did. And I hope I answered your question, Kris.
You did. I was really just looking for a story that showcases faith with finances and faith and trust, and that was beautiful. And
Amen.
what you said about a poverty mindset, I think in today's day and age, especially in the US and Western culture, I think people believe success is equated to money, that money is essential, and there's really not truth around that. Because if you look at missionaries, you look at various roles that people have where their income is poverty level, it doesn't mean that they're not successful. It doesn't mean that they're doing anything wrong. It simply means that they are living with daily bread. And I've said this before in other podcasts. God has done some really deep work in me about money and not being concerned about what's in my checkbook. And that has broken open so much freedom for me to walk in uncertainty. And I know you are the same way because we've swapped stories about that.
Yes.
Will you just take a second and then we'll go and we'll close up with my last question and talk a little bit about the poverty mindset, because there's probably some people here who are listening that are stuck in this never-ending cycle of lack. And sometimes it's based on consequences. You really haven't been making good decisions. But how do you know whether or not that lack that you're living in is based on choices or whether you're just in a season of daily bread? Because that's been a real struggle with people when I talk about my cycles and things that I've gone through.
Yes, absolutely. First of all, having a poverty mindset can be everything but money. A lot of times individuals don't understand that they are not their circumstances. You and I have swapped many stories about money and about things of that nature. But Kris, I would like to share that God took me to Africa this year, and I can add missionary to my resume or whatever that looks like. And I went into Africa as an American, thinking as an American the way we are reared and raised here. I came back a total different person, still an American, but my heart does not see money as monetary day to day. I have to have it. We need to have it. Individuals in Africa, the 3 countries we went to, Ghana, Togo, and Benin, they make do of what they have, and not getting into the long end of things. Their agape love is authentic. They have a particular love in their heart where they would do something for you just out of the kindness of their heart or the opportunity presented itself. There's scammers in every part of God's earth. And a lot of people have motivation to do a lot of things. But going to Africa taught me how to love unconditionally with the agape love of seeing past monetary. Because if you give someone in those circumstances money, they don't have the mindset. They're not equipped to use it or steward it well. God, I need $1 million. God gives me $1 million. 6 months later, it's gone. What happened? Why did you deserve that? Why did you make that decision? So God knows what he's doing when it doesn't come. We are salt and light. So we know we're adding that seasoning to that situation and we're stirring it up and making a beautiful recipe. We do that. Something I tell my clients and I tell my confidants, there's 2 ways to live, in truth or emotion. Thank God that both of them serve me. The emotional part serves me because God brings me emotional people. And in that, I tell them the truth of who God is, why we need him. And with wrong decisions, we will always not have what we are seeking. And the power of greed and the love of money will have you to always have this addiction mindset of poverty. I need it. I need it. I have to have it. The truth is in God's word. That's our sword of the spirit. When storms come, here comes truth. When pain comes, here comes truth. When cancer comes, here comes truth. So the poverty mindset, oh, I have cancer, and the victimization and the hustle is so unattractive. It's unattractive because you're crying wolf. You're saying the same thing over and over again. But when you stand up and make a decision, it says enough is enough. I'm tired of being tired. I'm tired of being a victim. I'm tired of being in this situation. I need an answer. I need a solution. And when you have nothing and you go to God with nothing, you're a diamond now because you've been under all this pressure and now you are a gem. And now if you stay there, you stay steady. Another thing I tell my clients, my confidants, discipline determines your destiny. Read your word. Put this full armor of God on. More than 3-4 times a day. Don't pray just God is great, God is good. That food came to you by way of you not having a poverty mindset. This month, I had this amount. This next month, this is what I need. But God, I'm going to let you take care of whatever it is of how you want to bless me. I would love more, but am I equipped more? Am I ready for more? So you have to be in a mindset of receiving. You have to be open and you have to know what the truth is before you make the decision. Oh, we're just going to get the prepaid loan and it's going to be fine and we'll pay it back. And the interest is more than the loan. That's not a good decision. If you're trying to get your credit score up and you get another credit card because the narrative says this is what will happen and you max the credit card out and you pay the minimum pages. The minimum payment is a poverty mindset. American Express is American Express for a reason. You have to pay that balance off in order to get more money or to get more increase. Put your faith in God. Understand who God is, and God will give you a blessing that you do not have room enough to receive. And that's how I'm living, in that mindset versus a poverty mindset.
Yeah, it sounds like you're at peace with whatever God gives you, and you've learned to be content, just like Paul says. And content isn't happiness, everybody. Content is trusting that Jesus is taking care of me or you, however that looks. So
Amen.
before we wrap up, do you have any parting words that you want to give the audience about leading upside down?
Yes. Do your best. Ask for help and let God do the rest. Do not lean towards your own understanding because you will always get in trouble. Always, always, always. And find peace and serenity by releasing all your fears to God. FEAR, face everything and rise.
That's good. And always have community around you that you trust to speak into your life, because we could be our own worst problem sometimes.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you so much, Nichole, for your wisdom and time. And for everybody, I'm going to put all of Nichole's information in the show notes so that you can get a hold of her. Nichole, are you offering anything special that I can add? Any ebooks or products? I know you've got a couple of side businesses that you run as well.
I do. I would probably just, I'm an essential oil queen. I am a naturalist. I am a vegan. And I do all things natural. So NicholeHenderson.net, if you need any type of healing, serenity, just to come up and lift your mood, to come out of a poverty mindset or whatever it is that you pray about, you can visit that. I have a link that I think I provided for you as my link tree with all of those links that connects to my business one way, shape, or form. I have a coaching company called Victorious Pearls, and I help women who are struggling with autoimmune disease to go from tragic to magic, to become high-powered performers through lifestyle and through understanding that surrender is freedom.
Well, I'll make sure to put all of that in the show notes so everybody can get a hold of you. And I know that you also have therapy appointments via Zoom, so they can, if they're interested in getting some help, they can connect with you on that too. So thanks so much, Nichole. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Kris.
And everybody, thanks again for listening to the podcast. If you want to learn more at all about leading upside down, let me know. Just click on the coffee and conversation button on my website. Take care, everybody. Thanks so much for hanging out and enjoying the Lead Upside Down podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. And remember, wherever you are, you can lead upside down too, just like Jesus did. Feel free to reach out to me if you want more information or if you think I can serve you in some way. Just go to my website, begin2shift.com, and click on the coffee and conversation icon and set that meeting up. Have a fantastic rest of your day.